Welcome to Developmental Biology. My name is Dr. Ray Hong, and I'm excited to get to know you this semester as we learn about how single cells, often referred to as eggs, develop into the millions of different multicellular organisms on Earth, past and present. It hasn't been easy for a lot of us the past 5 months, and the road ahead towards recovery is still quite uncertain. But in some ways, we are kind of lucky to have the global pandemic now, since even 5 years ago, we wouldn't probably have had the technological capacity to transition to online learning. So over the summer, many of us faculty took workshops to enhance our ability to teach online, bring us out of our comfort zones. So first off, looking at the syllabus, you should know that we would require a textbook. Textbooks are helpful to ground a lot of the learning into a broader context. So this is an online intermittent course, but it's mostly synchronous. So that means we'll start live lectures every Tuesday and Thursday from 12:30 to 1:20 via Zoom. And the Zoom information is as follows on the lower left. You'll need the passcode CRISPR-Dev to be able to log in. This information is also on Canvas. Now, for most of the time, we won't go through all 50 minutes, but it's the only time in which you can ask and participate in discussions while the lecture is going on. Most of the lecture times will be between 30 and 40 minutes, and that's because a lot of times you'll have a pre-lecture video that you can watch as well. Some of the contents in that video will be produced either by myself or in connection with the third-party Journal of Video Experiments, and that's called Jove. And those are also linked without any additional cost because of subscription by CSUN, and those are linked to our Canvas webpage. Now, my office hours are on Tuesdays between 10:15 and 11 via Zoom, and you can also request separate times if you want to meet on Zoom. Now, I prefer you contact me through the Canvas email, which I'll get in my normal email as well as when I log on to Canvas. Now, make sure you don't contact me by your Gmail or other private accounts because I often do not see those or ignore them because of phishing scams.
So I want to say a word about Zoom. That is, when you join us on the live Zoom sessions, please make sure that your video is on so we get to see you. And it's always nice to see each other when it's a live session, and that your mic is turned off on default, and that you use the chat function whenever you want to ask questions, so it allows me to reach a certain stopping point before addressing you. Of course, if you think that I'm not addressing your questions early enough, be comfortable unmuting yourself and asking the question. Now, during the presentations, you should also ask questions the same way, and you're also able to show reactions by thumbs up or claps without having to turn your mic on, if that's what you prefer.
This is highly integrative course. That means you're going to have to use a lot of the materials you learned, the fundamentals from your genetics course, 360, your cell biology course, 380, and perhaps some 322 if you already have taken that, and that's evolutionary biology. Because developmental biology is really a way to understand the dynamics of biological organisms, especially how a single cell, such as the egg, develops into all the different organisms and the different principal cell-to-cell interactions and the genes involved in that process. So the course grading will be broken down into 4 primary sections. Of course, leading off, that will weigh the most will be 3 exams, but I will only score the top 2 of your exams. The last exam is going to be in December, the last day of lecture. And so if you score better, of course, in that exam, which is somewhat cumulative, then of course it's going to substitute for one of your lower exams in either exams 1 and 2. Now, equally weighted is the student presentation, which I'll go over shortly. And that includes an abstract, which is what I call the article summary. That's one of the two that you'll be writing. And this is a great way for you to be able to understand a primary literature piece and then be able to summarize that in your own words using a particular set of elements that's described in a piece I uploaded as well by the journal article from Nature. So in total, all those three plus participation points, that's about 8%, will contribute to the total of 350 points. Now I want to get a chance to go through some of these specific parts. So the exams, again, will be mostly multiple choice, along with some short answers. And of course, being that this is an online course, or at least a distant learning course, you'll be able to use all the materials that you have in hand without being able to communicate with anyone else during the exam. So the exams will be given during a time when there will be a lecture. And what you also need to know is that we will have a live Zoom in addition, so that in case you have any questions, just like in a real in-person exam, you get to ask me questions. But that also means that the exam will be somewhat limited in time, so that you'll get 60 minutes, slightly more than the 50 minutes allotted for lecture, to be able to complete your exam online and be able to turn that in through Canvas. So next, the article abstract is a 300-word abstract based on the first article you'll be reading by Drever, or the second article if you want to have a chance and you don't like the first grade to resubmit another abstract, and that's going to be on the COTS paper, a second required paper. And then finally, you get to have a chance to write your own second article abstract that's going to be counted based on your research paper choice. And I'll talk again more about that later. So for participation points, you have to attend the live lectures, and then upon finishing that live section, you'll be able to submit what's called the exit ticket based on what you have learned online through Canvas. It'll normally be due at 2 p.m., and that is usually about within half an hour of finishing our lectures.
Okay, so now for the student presentation. So this is now your opportunity to select a primary research article by October 15th. The earlier you select, the more choices you have. The choice of papers are already on Canvas. They range anything from stem cells to the evolution of development to using CRISPR in order to ameliorate human conditions or to clone, and many other topics including sex determination and the adoption of viral genes into our developmental pathways. So choose everything that you want up to the 3 top choices by October 15th. And then you'll give a presentation on it in about mid-November. It'll be 12 minutes long plus 3 minutes of questions. And this will be graded by your peers, which will be weighted up to 75%, and by myself, weighted 25%. Before you start the presentation, you also need to submit a abstract in the same way that you did for the previous required papers, so that I know you were able to read and understand the primary research article. Again, if you need any help, you ask me about concepts and methodology way ahead of the time you present, so that you have a lot of time to prepare. The goal of this is to really for you to apply what you learned throughout the semester up until mid-November, so that you can read an ongoing research topic within developmental biology using those basic principles. The best presentations are the ones that actually connect those principles with the other papers that your classmates are going to present, and understand how those different topics are connected. Now, I can go into a little bit more detail about that later. In addition to that one paper, you also have 2 additional research papers, only one of which can be published before 2000. In addition, have a recent review article. So review articles are quite different from research articles in that they try to summarize what's going on in the last couple of years on that topic. For example, on using CRISPR to germline edit muscular dystrophies in humans. So, with that in mind, I would start as early as you can within the next week or so, browse through the papers and see if you're interested, and then delve a little deeper to make sure that you're capable of understanding somewhat the paper, of course, before we go through the rest of the semester. So the most important thing is to decide that within a week or so of the October 15th deadline, so that you have time to change your mind if possible. Okay?
Well, that's it. I hope to see you in a couple of days live on Zoom, and I look forward to a very productive semester.